Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out, dpsconstruction.net. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a frustrated, it is an angry Husker Nation. That's pretty clear, and it's hard to blame people. All right, now, full disclosure, real quick, this is Saturday that I'm recording this show. So the further away we get from the games, the less raw the emotions are. So the emotions for me are still very, very raw, even though this show isn't going to go out till Sunday morning. Okay, these are my final grades for the offense, defense, special teams coaches over year one after the first season under Matt Rhule's tenure. Okay, but I'm going to try to be as fair as I can despite the emotions still being raw from that Iowa game yesterday. Now, real quick, again, I know there's a lot of frustrated, angry people after that disgusting loss to Iowa, okay? But a little positivity real quick. I appreciate my wife who edits every single show that I have. Okay, so if you want to show my wife, all right, who loves editing this show, but if you want to show her some love for editing this show and my kids for coming on the show throughout this year, every prediction Thursday that we had, okay, they won't come on again until next year or our next prediction show. If you want to show her some love for editing this show, I want to personally tell her thank you. And or if you enjoy my kids coming on the show, then smash that like button. All right, ladies and gentlemen, these are the final year one grades for Matt Rhule after his first season here at the University of Nebraska. As you know, Nebraska ended the season 5-7. There still is an outside chance to go to a bowl game. We'll cross that bridge if we get to it. All right, I did do midseason grades earlier this year. These grades are going to be a little bit different. I am going to try to look at the season as a whole and not be a prisoner of the moment, okay, whether it be the last game or the end of the season, although that is going to be weighted quite heavily, but I'm going to try to look at the season as a whole. It doesn't help that we lost the last 4 games in a row and probably not go into a bowl game. Okay, all right. Now, the Huskers only scored 216 total points this year. They averaged 18 points per game. Now, remember, Iowa is letting go of Baby Ferentz, their offensive coordinator, whose offense averaged exactly 18 points per game through their 12 games this season. Now, he's been Iowa's offensive coordinator since 2017. And as we know, the Hawkeyes had 10 wins this year. Now, to be clear, okay, there are games that are going to be played after I record this show before it goes out on Sunday morning. But most of these stats should be fairly accurate. Okay, but just a heads up and disclaimer. Now, the last 4 games Nebraska played in November, they lost them all. After an undefeated October, okay, they had 3 games in October, including a bye week. But during those 3 games, they averaged 23 points per game that they won in October, in which they never lost a game. In November, they did not win a game. Okay, in their 4 straight losses in November, they averaged 13.5 points per game, so quite the drop-off in points production, and only 5.75 points in the second half of those games. Now, in the second half of our last 2 games versus Wisconsin and Iowa, we had a combined 6 points in those 2 second halves put together versus Iowa and Wisconsin. Now, the coaches said throughout this year, Rhule said they wanted to get the ball to Emmett Johnson more. Versus Iowa, he only had 11 carries. And once again, our quarterback was our leading rusher. The Huskers did only average 2.5 yards per rush versus the Hawkeyes. Now, 3 times this year, Nebraska lost on what was basically a walk-off game-winning field goal. Okay, where the score every time, how does this happen, was exactly 13-10. Minnesota, Maryland, and Iowa. Twice, we think it's fair not to point this out. The facts are what they are. Okay, the last 2 times were following a Chubba Purdy interception, which ended the Huskers' last scoring opportunity, which then led to the opponent's game-winning field goal. Okay, not entirely on him, but it is what it is. Versus Minnesota, our last 2 drives, and I'd actually forgotten this. We were up 10-3. Okay, in our last 2 drives, the second to last one was the Anthony Grant fumble. Minnesota capitalizes, goes in and scores, ties it 10-10. Then Jeff Sims throws an interception on our last drive of that game. Minnesota capitalizes, kicks a game-winning field goal, wins 13-10, as we know. All right, now, Nebraska has lost. Just a quick update. You'll love this. Nebraska has lost 31-score games over the last 6 years. That's just painful. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to get to the grades shortly. But real quick, I want to give a shout-out to our sponsor, DPS Concrete Construction. If you're a diesel mechanic, CDL driver, or concrete finisher looking for work in the Omaha metro area, DPS Concrete Construction is the employer for you. Quality owner, quality work, quality company. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net if you're looking for a great employer or looking to have great work done. All right, now back to the grades. And I got quite the buildup leading into these grades. Don't worry, I'll get into them. Ladies and gentlemen, real quick, I have 13. I just lost a bunch of my papers. I have 13, and there's 3 more on the floor right there. I just lost 13 pages of notes here. Okay. I don't think I've ever done this much research or watched this much film preparing for a show in the going on 10 years now, come January, that I've been doing the Chronicles, and the 5 years that I did Carriker Live. I also do the Big Ten show, the ticket, all that stuff. I don't think I've ever prepared for a show as much as I've done this show. Now, back to the topic at hand. Part of me kind of wonders if Matt Rhule, and I know he wanted to win. We're all sure that he was trying to win these games. He wanted to win. But I kind of wonder, because he mentioned something at a press conference at one point about kind of just getting through year one. Okay. I kind of wonder if he just wanted to get through year one, part of him, and I know he wanted to win, to be clear. I'm not saying he didn't, but like he did at Temple and Baylor, just kind of get through those years to build to year 2 and year 3 is what I'm getting at. The difference here is every game matters and every season matters to a large, passionate fan base. Nebraska's following isn't like Temple or Baylor. I say that with all due respect, but that's why we set world records here. That's why we set consecutive sellout game records. Easy for me to say, but you know what I mean. There truly is no place like Nebraska. The passion, the following. Okay. Again, I'm sure Rhule wanted to win, but I can't help but wonder if maybe he overlooked that just a smidge. Now, I got some tweets. Dude, I'm interactive with the people on Twitter. I'm interactive with the people on Facebook. I thought these were some interesting tweets. My wonderful wife's going to put them up on the screen, so I'm going to read them quickly because you can see them on the screen. This is at Husker Wade, because I was curious what other people had to say. We started 5-3 and couldn't make a bowl. And he puts in quotes, but we are so much further than expected, end quote. I wouldn't say further than expected. Progress, yes. I have no choice but to trust in Rhule, but he is the only reason we didn't win 6. Rhule cost us the bowl. That was their take. All right, Greg Smith at Greg Smith Rivals on Twitter. Progress was made this season. That's a fact. But Nebraska must do 2 things. Keep Tony White and spend up to $1 million on a transfer quarterback. All right, at Husk Guys. These next 3 tweets are all from at Husk Guys. We were 5-3 with 4 games to play, and we didn't make a bowl game. I am in complete shock. All right, next one. I realized that I guzzle the Kool-Aid, and this is all in my own head, but 3 weeks ago, we controlled our own destiny to win the Big Ten West, and we somehow finished second to last, and I have complete whiplash because I never could have predicted that outcome. Final tweet from Husk Guys. We had the ball with a chance to tie or win the game against Minnesota, Michigan State, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and all 5 drives ended in turnover and losses. We have got to focus on pressure-packed situations this offseason to get better and break this 1-score loss, decade-long curse. Now, this next one is from Mitch Sherman. Speaking of Tony White, Tony White told Nebraska defenders that he didn't plan to do much coaching today, talking about the Iowa game. Defensive lineman Ty Robinson said, White just wanted to let them play and trust their training. We'll learn more soon on White's future plans. No matter, he's made an impact this year. That's per Mitch Sherman. One more from Mitch. Another 13-10 loss. That's the 3rd of the season for Nebraska. It just ends like it began. So how to find progress in the madness? Oh, and by the way, the Huskers minus 17 turnover margin equals their worst mark from the past 20 years. All right. I read those quick because they were up on the screen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's my final thoughts before I give the grades. The beginning of the year, I thought we had an identity on offense after the first few games. I really did. I thought we were going to run the ball, pound the rock, wear you out. It might be ugly. It might not be pretty. Okay, and as turnovers aside, because we've had those all year, we were going to be the better second half team. And I don't know where that went, honestly. It didn't last as long as I would have liked. And maybe I was just fooled. We lost our offensive identity, in my opinion, to a degree anyways, a bit throughout the season, and we regressed somehow. At least that's what I think. Okay, not winning any of our last 4 games, all winnable games, and not earning a bowl game weighs heavily on some of these grades, even though I'm trying to look at the season as a whole. As mentioned before, I don't particularly like doing grades. If you watch my mid-season grade video show that I did during the bye week, I don't do grade shows very often. I don't like them. I just don't. Okay? But it felt appropriate, so here I am. Okay, I don't particularly enjoy these shows. I do find them challenging for me, but let's light this candle. And here's what I'm going to lead with. If you've watched this show before, it ain't the first time you've heard me say it, it won't be the last. Facts don't care about feelings. In other words, facts over feelings. Let's light this candle. The pass offense. Nebraska was 126 in the country. You know who we were in front of? Iowa at 127, Army at 128, Navy at 129, Air Force at 130. 4 teams who don't even know what a forward pass is, and I say that with all due respect. Okay. Huskers had 10 passing touchdowns on the year and 16 interceptions. A 52% completion percentage and 3 interceptions this year, as I mentioned before, that led directly to an opponent's game-winning field goal. All right, now what you want is a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. For every interception you throw, you want at least 2 touchdowns. That's considered pretty good. Okay, and as far as your completion percentage, somewhere in that 60 to 70% range. And for a college quarterback, we weren't even close. My grade for the passing offense is an F. Rushing offense. Now, coming into the Iowa game, all right, we had the number 1 rushing offense in the Big Ten. Okay, versus the Hawkeyes, we ran the ball 30 times for 75 yards. All right, we also lead the nation in fumbles and fumbles lost with 15. I gave our rushing offense a grade of a B-. Now, I debated between a B- and a C+ for such a long time, simply because of the fumbles and the turnovers. I ended up going with a B-. All right, the final offensive grade, I gave a D-. Okay, I felt like I was kind of being kind with that a little bit. Maybe you'll disagree. It doesn't help that Nebraska is near the bottom in red zone offense as well. Okay, now Rhule did say that Marcus Satterfield is coming back next year. Okay, cool. He was very clear about that. Here's what I think. Let me be clear. He needs to be evaluated hardcore next year. All right, pass defense. I'll be honest with you. Our pass defensive stats were better than I thought they would be. Okay, now we're 44th in the country in pass yards allowed per game, giving up 210 pass yards per game. But the most surprising thing to me was we're 17th in the country in pass efficiency defense, right ahead of Alabama at number 18. I didn't see that one coming. So I gave our pass defense a C+. I felt like some teams passed the ball on us better than they should have, especially when you think about a game like the Michigan State game, or just as an example. But not every team, because look at the Maryland game. Wasn't he the number 1 passer in the Big Ten, Tagovailoa? And look how well our defense played that day. But for the most part, we played some bad offenses this year. So I feel like our defense played well, but benefited a little bit from that. So again, pass defense, I gave him a C+. Run defense. I know we missed some tackles versus Iowa, okay? But we have currently the 8th best rush defense in the country, allowing 92.9 rush yards per game, right behind Oregon, who's the 7th best rush defense in the country. I gave our rush defense an A-. All right, now the defense, the overall grade I gave the defense was a B+. Originally, I had it just a straight B. But when I took into account the tough positions our defense was constantly put into, okay, and they're the 17th ranked scoring defense in the country, and they were constantly put in brutal positions all year by turnovers and a struggling offense. We're really not that far behind when it comes to scoring defense in the country. All right, we're 17th. We're not too far behind Florida State, Texas, and Alabama. Okay, that's why I gave our defense as an overall whole a B+. It seemed fair. To me, special teams, I was mixed on special teams. Okay, we had 2 blocked field goals versus Iowa, which was a major reason we had a chance to win that game. All right, our coverage units have been pretty good all year for the most part, I'd say. But an inconsistent kicking game, and Tristan Alvano's a young man with a bright future. Very bright. He's going to be good. But inconsistency in the kicking game, including Brian Buschini, our punter, at times, which, frankly, I didn't see that one coming, along with absolutely no return game. I gave our special teams a C-. I almost gave them a C, but even we had some fumbles on some of the punts that we did return this year. Maybe that's why Rhule didn't want to do it more, but I gave the special teams a C-, not a C. All right, coaching, this was the toughest one. I have to take into account a plethora of things. Yeah, there's that word. Here we go. I took into account, here's the list. Okay, the season as a whole, the fact that it was an easier schedule this year. It's year 1 under Matt Rhule, and I know people are sick and tired of hearing that. I said in a previous video, we got to let go of the ghost of Scott Frost, the coach, and I know that's easier said than done. All right, we have to take into account how badly the quarterback situation was handled or mishandled this year, from the preseason all the way up until the last couple of games. We have to take into account how we lost some of these games, which was like a nauseating deja vu over and over. Okay, I have to take into account, as bad as this is, that 5 wins is tied for the most amount of wins we've had over the past 7 years. In 2022, 4 wins. 2021, 3 wins. 2020, which was COVID, we had a 3-5 record. 2019, 5 wins. 2018 and 2017, both 4-win seasons. All right, I do have to weight some things more than others. The end of the season matters a little bit more than the beginning, at least to me. We lost the last 4 games of year 1 and couldn't find a way to win just 1. Okay, and that includes 3 games against 3 teams on bad losing streaks at the time. And the last team, Iowa, we were actually favored to beat. That right there is the most damning thing in my very humble opinion. Now, look at the grades as an overall whole. Okay, before I give the coaching grade, I gave the defense a B+ and the special teams a C-, but I gave the offense a D-. So when you take all that into account, when it comes to the coaching grades, the absolute highest grade I could possibly give the coaches, knowing those grades, was a C or a C-. All right. Now, I tried to keep in mind that Matt Rhule's teams make a big jump in year 2. Okay. Happened at Temple, happened at Baylor, because he likes to build the program. Okay. Build it up. And they typically take another jump in year 3. But this is year 1. And as of right now, that's all I have to go on. It came down to this. I've said for months that my bar for success, cut and dried, bam, was 6-6 and at least going 6-6, if not better, and earning a trip to a bowl game. I've been very consistent with that. A successful season. Not achieving that to me was not a successful season. Okay. Now, also to me, anything grade-wise in the C range, I just think back to my school days, C-, C to C+, to me, that was average. Well, we have a below average record and we're not going to a bowl game. So how can I give a grade that's something in the C range right now? I just don't see how I can do that. I gave the coaching as an overall whole for the staff, Matt Rhule and his staff, a D+. I'm well aware that'll probably anger some people, and I'm not even saying that I'm right. What I'm saying is it is my opinion. And it's my opinion after a crap load of research and a crap load of watching film. Now, let me be clear. I really hope we get that Rhule year 2 jump. And my opinion is much, much different at the end of next season. And the grades are much, much different this time next year. Hopefully we get that Matt Rhule year 3 jump. And I look back on this video in a couple of years and this show in a couple of years and I just laugh. Until then, I want to leave you with one final thing. Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't call this the People's Show for marketing, for a tagline. Okay. I call it the People's Show because when I was growing up, I would have given anything to be able to interact with people that I watched, athletes that I watch, show hosts that I watch. So now that I feel like I might be in a little bit of that position, I want to reciprocate what I wish I could have gotten when I was watching shows like this or some of the athletes that I grew up watching. So I simply want to share an interaction that I had on Facebook with a fan in the comments. Scott Galindo, and I hope I said that right, commented, said, how much longer do we endure until next year, Adam? And I'm an optimist, okay? I said, Scott, I wouldn't advise it, but you could always stop being a fan. It is an option. I know people who are avid, lifelong Detroit Lions fans. Other than Thanksgiving Day, I couldn't be happier for how this season is going for them so far. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here are my questions for you fine folks at home. Let me know in the comments below your answers to these questions. The offense had a ton of injuries and young players play this year on offense. Does that change how you view the offense's performance this year and how you view it going into next year? Number 2, do you agree that the top 2 offseason priorities are finding a transfer portal quarterback and keeping Tony White? I believe that was Greg Smith's tweet that I read earlier. And number 3, what are your final grades for this season? Was I too harsh, too kind, or was I fair? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy what I do here on the Carriker Chronicles, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, support the YouTube channel, check out CarrikerChronicles.com. I'm doing a ton of off-season content. That season ain't over for me. Go Big Red Nose. Remember to throw the ball.